With 2025 now in the books, it's time to look back and rank some of my favorites of the year. And today we'll be diving into my top 10 TV shows of 2025. Let's talk about it. What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? Welcome back into JC's Movies, where you can see all kind of movie and TV show talk with me, JC. Like I said, here today to break down the top 10 TV shows of 2025. I'll throw some honorable mentions in as well before we get to the top 10 list. But if you're a fan of movies, TV shows, be sure you're subscribed here to the channel. We talk about them a lot here, especially horror, comedy, and superheroes. So if those are up your alley, be sure you hit that subscribe button. We'll talk some movies together. While you're in here watching this one, help me out with that YouTube algorithm by hitting that thumbs up button. Giving this video a like helps us out a ton there. Helps more movie fans like you and me find the channel. With that out of the way, let's get into it here. But let's run down some honorable mentions before we get to the top 10 list, which, like I said, not saying these are the best, just my favorites. Would love to hear your opinion on some of your favorite shows of the year as well down in the comment section below. So for me, some honorable mentions, just missing out on the top 10. Hunting Wives was a good time on Netflix. Season 1 of the Hunting Wives. I know it was renewed. We'll get to see more of it, which is kind of good because it kind of ended on a little bit of a cliffhanger, but I enjoyed that. Brittany Snow, always easy on the eyes as well. Same goes for Malin Ackerman. A lot of the people in that show, a lot of that cast, good looking. So, but definitely a good show all around. Drama, intrigue, murder, you name it. This show's got it all. Hunting Wives on Netflix, just missing out. The Beast in Me, I thought was a really good mystery show. A little bit slower, long build, but I thought the payoff was really nice. A lot of good twists involved there. Not enough to get into the top 10, but I did like season 1 of The Beast in Me, which I think is just a limited series on Netflix. And then, of course, the final season of Righteous Gemstones. I thought for sure it'd make my top 10, but I just watched a lot of shows this year. This was actually the first year that I can really remember watching more shows than I did movies this year. So Righteous Gemstones final season doesn't quite get into my top 10, but I enjoyed Righteous Gemstones overall. All those shows that Danny McBride and David Gordon Green, Jody Hill, and those guys have made have been great. And Righteous Gemstones on HBO, the final season was good as well. And then the Studio, Seth Rogen show on Apple Plus. I really enjoyed it at first, but to me, it kind of got a little bit formulaic, I think, throughout, I guess I could say, because towards the tail end, I kind of fell out of love with it a little bit. It felt like it was kind of dragging a little bit because it was just kind of, you knew what was going to happen. It was just the situations, how, what were the different comedy beats going to be within said moments. So I enjoyed it, and I know some people compared it to Entourage, but to me it's no Entourage, but it's not a bad show. It hits my honorable mentions here in 2025. And then lastly, season 5, the final season of Stranger Things. I know, can't believe it's not in my top 10 either, but I think the finale brought it back for me. I absolutely loved the finale. Watched it on Netflix, and then went and watched it in theaters. But that middle portion, that second part, kind of brought it down for me to where it didn't quite crack my top 10. I think, season 1, season 4, probably still my 2 favorite seasons. I really enjoyed season 4. But there's some honorable mentions. Let's get into the top 10 list. All right, so starting off at number 10, season 1 of Chad Powers on Hulu. It took me a while to watch this one. Once I finally did, I caught right up, and then was having to wait on it week to week. My only complaint here was I thought we should have got some more episodes, man. It felt like it ended abruptly, and it didn't feel like it was that much of a length. I guess it's similar to what most shows are, 7 to 10. It's right in there. I think it was 8, something like that. But nonetheless, at least it did get renewed for season 2. We'll be returning to that. It sounds like, which Chad Powers was pretty cool for something that you never thought would spin off into a TV show with Eli Manning and those guys, but it did, and they did a good job with it. I thought Chad Powers was really funny. I'm glad to see Steve Zahn back in something as well. Great stuff with him. Glenn Powell, really good. One of my favorite Glenn Powell performances probably is in Chad Powers, so it comes in at number 10. And then at number 9, we're going back to a Netflix show, season 1 of The Waterfront, which I do believe was renewed as well. Awesome stuff here. Holton McClaney. And then you get an incredible performance from Topher Grace. I mean, when he came in and was kind of like the quote-unquote big bad in the show, I was like, really? But, man, he sold it. The way that they played his character, the way it was written, and, the angles that they took with him, It was pretty good. It was pretty good with Topher Grace there. Also, you get Supergirl from the Arrowverse in here, Melissa Benoist in here as well. Really good cast for the waterfront all around, and I enjoyed this show, man. A lot of twists and turns. Similar to a couple that I mentioned in my honorable mentions. There, mystery, murder. I think if you liked The Hunting Wives and you didn't check out the waterfront, you should definitely check out the waterfront because to me, where Hunting Wives is a little bit more tongue in cheek, a little bit more, I don't want to say soap opera at times. The waterfront seems, takes itself a little bit more serious in my opinion. But I think it just does it just a little bit better than what the Hunting Wives does. So the waterfront does crack into my top 10 here at number 9. And then number 8, this is one that's really stuck with me since I've seen it, man. And that's All Her Fault on Peacock, a limited series there. And this was one when I watched it, the first episode, I'm like, okay, I can get into this. And it's the type of show where something happens, there's an event, and you're trying to figure out, who caused the event. And so the second episode, or it was the second or third episode, I can't remember, they give it away. They're like, and you're like, what? How's this going to continue? And the way that they end up, making the story press on, and you think you know everything, and then at the end, the twist that they hit you with, man, I hadn't been that, thrown off and surprised by a twist in quite a while. And just the characters, you think throughout the show, and then at the end, last couple episodes, it kind of turns it on its head, and that just kind of sticks with you, how unbelievably cruel some of these main characters are in this show. Definitely sticks with you for sure. And just the twists I thought were really good. So All Her Fault on Peacock, really underrated. Number 7, Welcome to Derry on Max. The first season of it, Welcome to Derry. They're supposedly going to do 3 seasons. Each one, going back further, 27 years in time, as Pennywise, comes out every 27 years. And what I liked about this one was you do get a little bit more backstory. You get a little bit more about the lore of Pennywise himself. You get to kind of see how Derry itself starts to change and get infected. You see some of these characters, and also if you're fans of the mini series from back in the day, or of course the movies that came out starting in like 2017, you get to see some kind of legacy characters, to the characters in those films, their parents and grandparents and things like that. And so that lore and stuff was cool. Getting Bill Skarsgård in here at Pennywise was cool. My one complaint was, wish there was more of him. You don't get him for a good portion of the series. They couldn't afford to pay him, I guess, but you don't get him for about 2 or 3 episodes there at the end. But the downside for me in this one that kept it from getting into my top 5 was just all the military stuff. I thought that subplot was kind of dumb, especially when you learn their reasoning and their plan. Just didn't really hit home for me, didn't land for me. So that kind of drug it down a little bit. But overall, I thought really well done, and I'm excited for the next season. I thought in the first couple episodes, they really went there with some gore and some crazy moments. And I hope they continue to do that in the second season. And then at number 6 for me, just missing out on the top 5, it's Vince Gilligan's new show on Apple Plus, the first season of Pluribus, which has been renewed for a second season. Listen, I really enjoyed this one. I thought for sure it'd be in my top 5. But I think like a lot of people that I've heard talk about this, there's it's like another show that I mentioned, just a slow build. And it seems like for a while, there's not really a ton happening. And because of the setup of the show, there's not really a lot of characters to focus on. You're really only focused on one character for a lot of the time. And Rhea Seehorn does a great job. She does a lot of heavy lifting. She's incredible in the show. But it's just kind of the format of the show, the plot that you're given, what it sets up doesn't lend to a lot of conflict between characters. Now they're trying to build on that towards the end, and I will have to admit I haven't watched the finale of this yet. I still have to watch the final episode, but I don't think it's going to change it one way or the other. Certainly it's not going to drop out of my top 10, and I don't think it's going to move it into my top 5. So I feel comfortable having Pluribus here at 6, but I think it's a show with a lot of potential that may even get better in future seasons. And then into the top 5, talk about ones that really stick with you, man. If you can watch this show and not shed tears, I don't know, you might be made of stone. And that's Adolescence, the limited series that came out on Netflix. I think it's in the top 2 or 3 most watched series ever on Netflix. And, it's a tearjerker. It's a tearjerker for sure. It touches on, a lot of different themes that are, what's the word I'm looking for here? I guess polarizing maybe would be the word to go with. Definitely some touchy subjects and stuff here that it tries to tackle, but it does a good job of coming at those themes from different angles and really trying to, leave you with a good message and it's going to hurt you. It's going to stick with you, and it's going to be bad. I'm not going to lie to you. It's definitely not one that has a happy ending. I guess I'll give you that spoiler warning, but man, is it well done the way that they do it and the way that they tell this story and the way that they get their point across, you feel it. You feel it for sure. So Adolescence into my top 5. And then number 4, also from HBO Max, season 2 of Peacemaker, the first season that's taking place in the official DCU now. After that began, after the first season, and I thought they really did some fun stuff here with this second season. Because when I was seeing the trailers, I was like, oh no, more multi-dimensional stuff. And the way that they handled it, though, was really good. Some of the twists with that dimension were crazy. Some people even called it beforehand. We did episode recaps for this one, so I think that obviously, made it hit a little bit harder for me just getting to talk about it every week. So I really enjoyed Peacemaker, though. I thought it was well done. James Gunn, has crafted a show that can both make you laugh and cry in the same episode. So it's really good, well done. Season 2 right up there with season 1 for me, and I really enjoyed Peacemaker. So it's at number 4 in my top TV shows of 2025. Which brings us into the top 3. And at number 3 for me, season 3 of White Lotus. I know some people had this one as kind of a mixed bag, but it was one of my favorite seasons of White Lotus. I think right behind the first season. It's close to it, though. I really enjoyed season 3. I don't know if it was just the setting. I'm a big Walton Goggins fan, having him in there. I thought that Parker Posey and her family with Patrick Schwarzenegger and Jason Isaacs, I thought that they were great. All the different cast of characters involved in this one, I really liked all of them. So maybe that was, big point of the selling point. I thought it was one of the better casts overall. And really, season 3 for me just was great. I enjoyed White Lotus a lot. If you haven't watched White Lotus, it's definitely really good, and you can enjoy each season by itself. They're not connected. So that's nice. And season 3 for me, right up there, but it makes it a fun show to compare, season to season. And like I said, for me, season 3 is right up there, close to season 1. And it was my 3rd favorite show of the year. And then at number 2, this one was hard to go and decide between these two because Severance. Luckily, I was not somebody that, watched Severance when it first came out and had to endure that long wait. I just watched season 1 by the time season 2 had already started. And so when I finished season 1, I got to jump right into season 2. Now, I did have to wait week to week on season 2 after a couple of episodes. But the reason it's not at number 1 for me is I thought season 2 was not quite as good as season 1. Now, towards the end, I thought the payoff and stuff was phenomenal, but there were a few episodes in the middle there that really dragged. I think the one with Patricia Arquette where she goes in the back of the guy's truck to, that snowy place, and where her mom or sister, whoever the hell it was, I don't know. I'm still lost on that episode. If anybody knows anything about that episode, drop it in the comments, because that shit confused the hell out of me, and it really was just like a blank spot in the season. Like, I feel like they could have cut that episode completely out. Maybe it'll pay off in the future, in the next season. I don't know. But besides that episode, mainly, I really enjoyed season 2. Like I said, because of that, it kind of knocked it below season 1 for me. But still, one of the very best shows on TV. If you're into, mystery, thriller, suspenseful type shows, you need to check out Severance. It's so well done. Also gets you some good comedy in there. The cast is phenomenal. So Severance for me, number 2 in 2025, which means number 1 has got to be Paradise. That's right, Paradise on Hulu, season 1. Please, if you haven't yet, do yourself a favor, go watch season 1 of Paradise on Hulu, on Disney Plus, whichever there, before season 2 comes out, because this is just such a great show. You talk about, another great cast here, and Sterling K. Brown's acting chops in this are on full display, man. I don't know if he's won any awards for this, but he should. He certainly should for his performance in this. I mean, there's multiple, good performances in this. James Marsden plays the president and does a good job of it. But, I don't want to give away too much, because I think, you should go into it blind like I kind of did. And I think that really helps it a lot. But let's just say there's a catastrophic event and there's a select group of people that carry on living. That's what I'll say, and that may or may not be the only people that survive. There may be others, but you're focused on a particular group of people that are living, where they're living, how they're living, all of that I'll leave up for you to find out. But man, is it phenomenal. And it also is kind of eerie. It's one of those dystopian kind of things. I guess I can say that much and not give too much away, but it also is kind of eerie and gives you kind of a weird feeling in the pit of your stomach, because it doesn't seem too far from being a possibility either, which is kind of scary to say here. But because of the way they tackle it, because of the themes, multiple tearjerker episodes, probably I think it's episode 7 if I remember correctly, because it stuck with me that much I can remember which episode it was. I think one of the best episodes of a TV show I've ever seen. It's probably in my top 10 or top 5 episodes of any show ever. So that's what I'm talking about here with Paradise. That's why I loved it. Highly recommend it. My number one show of 2025 as I wrap up my top 10 shows of 2025. So there you have it. That's my list from 2025. Like I said, there was a lot of other good shows that I didn't include. I think I watched over 25. I mean, just some others that I had on the list that I didn't name in honorable mentions that I did enjoy still yet. The Devil in Disguise, John Wayne Gacy show, the Death in the Family about the Murdoch murders on Hulu. You know, I liked all those shows on Hulu that kind of recreated the real life events. That one, and then there was a Happy Family or Good American Family, I think, that was about the Natalia Grace family. Happy Face on Paramount Plus was decent. Daredevil Born Again was good. Bad Thoughts by Tom Segura I thought was pretty funny, just something different where some crazy stuff was going on. Monster Ed Gein was polarizing. I don't know necessarily think you can say it was good. Took a lot of liberties with Ed Gein, but the voice and all that and Charlie Hunnam's performance, iconic. So just to name some others there that I did watch but didn't mention or anything or didn't make the list or the honorable mention list. But if there's any that I missed, that you really enjoyed, drop them in the comments. Like I said, always appreciate those interactions and looking forward to watching some fun shows in 2026, but hopefully watching more movies and bringing reviews for those on the channel to you guys in the near future. And I'll have my top 5 movies of the year list out in the near future as well. So be on the lookout for that here on JC's Movies. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'd appreciate that. Just like I appreciate you tuning into this one, and I will catch you on the next one.